And welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. I feel like we need to have a slower introduction. Like, you know, get the countdown in and maybe a better way to usher in, but we'll work on that. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys, here on another Tuesday night live stream, back after a short hiatus. Thank you all for the well wishes and the comments, everything like that. I've taken care of some issues off the field, if you will. So we were unable to be here this last Tuesday, but we are very excited to be back tonight with a lot to break down. Obviously, a lot to break down from week 6, a lot to break down going into week 7. We're going to talk about what a 12-team college football playoff would look like as of right now, based on our official rankings. We got a lot of beef with the most recent AP poll, so we're going to talk about the AP poll, which you haven't heard a rankings rant in a while. So depending on how fired up y'all get me, and how fired up we get about it, then we might get into one. But we're going to talk about those playoffs. We're going to talk about the rankings. We're going to talk about the upcoming matchups this Saturday, what's going to be a massive weekend for college football. We've got the top 10 matchup out in Seattle with Oregon and Washington, going to be massive. Also, right below them in Corvallis, UCLA and Oregon State. So a massive day in the Pac-12. And then Notre Dame and USC, also a major day for the Pac-12. Notre Dame already out of college football playoff contention. USC, though, still certainly in the hunt. So huge day for the Pac-12 conference. We're going to talk about that. We're going to take your phone calls. We're going to take your comments in the chat. We're going to try to do about half and half, hopefully with both. So we're really looking forward tonight, getting back into the swing of things again. And we appreciate all of you guys for bearing with us after last week. So we really do appreciate that, and for your continued support. So hopefully we won't run into too many other issues going forward, and we should be here hopefully every Tuesday night now for the rest of the year. That's the plan, at least, right? We got a lot of. It's crazy to think we are at the halfway point, a little over the halfway point of the college football season, right? I mean, six weeks in, got about another 6 weeks to go. Then you got your championships, and you got your bowl games. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse, right? It's great that we're getting deeper into the season. That means better matchups. That the races are getting more intense, but at the same time, it's like we're almost done. We're halfway there. We're halfway to it being over, and it just makes me want to shed a tear because college football every year goes by way too fast. Real quick though, before we dive into some of the topics that we want to talk about today, again, playoff topics, the Pac-12 race, the AP poll. We'll give a shout out to the guys that are already here in the chat. We want to thank you all for being here. Robert, good to see you. My man, C. Glassman 81. Great to have you here, my guy. Nice to see you. Graham Brooks, nice to see you, man. Very happy to have you here. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for being here. Man, it has been way too long. Definitely been long. So happy to have you here for a little bit. Mike Myrick, good to see you, my guy. Go Noles. Your Noles are killing it. Don't let the haters bring you down, Mike. I'm sure they haven't. You know, everybody's like, oh, Florida State didn't look that good against Virginia Tech. They didn't look great against Boston College, whatever. Hey, look, you're undefeated, kicking butt. Still top 5 team in the country. You're looking great, and you're going to be due for a massive win against Syracuse. So, Mike, good to see you, my guy. And the Noles looking really good, despite what some of the haters maybe seeing. Our man Flobe is here. Good to see you. My man Will Lou, a resident Rutgers fan. Nice to have you, Will. Let's see what else we got. Clement, good to see you, my guy. Nice to have you here. Scotty B, the Baylor King. Gideon, super nice to see you. I really appreciate you being here, Gideon, and the comment that you left on our post last week. That meant a lot, and all the way from Germany. Yeah, as you say, in Germany, which is phenomenal. And actually, you know, I've got it over here. I wish I can't stream it due to copyright reasons. But we've got Liberty and Jacksonville State on the TV over here. So if you're with us on the stream tonight, turn your TVs on to Liberty and Jacksonville State, a major game in the Conference USA. 2 undefeated teams in conference play. Liberty 5-0, Jacksonville State 5-1. So we will be kind of keeping an eye on that game as we go throughout the night. And watch along with us. Again, I wish I could have it on like side by side on the screen, but it'll get taken down immediately. So, but Gideon, good to see you. We're definitely going to do some watch alongs right now. And again, appreciate you and all your support all the way from Germany, which is absolutely unbelievable. Freaking fantastic. So pumped to have you here. Scotty B, good to have you here as well. And everybody else that may be joining the chat, whether it's later tonight, after the stream has ended. You're always welcome here as part of the GE Nation. Make sure to hit that like button as you're coming in or as you're leaving, however you do. We really appreciate that. It really helps out our analytics, helps more people find our channel and helps us grow, which we're growing at a pretty rapid rate right now. And we're really, really excited. Gideon, how about UNC ceiling? We're going to take a lot of questions in the chat tonight. We're going to take a lot of questions for your phone call. So, Robert, yes, we will be doing a call-in show. Don't worry. We'll let you know when the phone lines are open. We'll let you know once we open those up here in a little bit. UNC ceiling, Gideon, is really, really high. I'm going to say they're the second best team in the ACC right now, only behind Florida State. That would be my take. I know Louisville's in there as well. The Cardinals making some major noise, and we'll talk about them here in a second. But North Carolina's got a really favorable schedule coming up. If they can get past Miami this Saturday, and we'll have a prediction on that video coming out on Thursday. All of those ranked versus ranked matchups, the analysis for that starts tomorrow. Miami and UNC starts on Thursday. If they get past Miami and remain undefeated, the schedule is super easy from there. I know the last two games, I believe, NC State's going to be tough. And I think who they play in that second to last game of the year, they've got a tough road game to close out the season outside of NC State. I want to say it's Duke. Is that right? Clemson. Yeah, those final three games. Look, if they beat Miami, I think they win their next two. They'll beat Virginia, should beat Georgia Tech. So they'd be 6-0, 7-0, 8-0. They'll beat Campbell. They'll be 9-0. There's a very good chance North Carolina's 9-0 heading into those final three games against Duke, the road game at Clemson, and the road game at NC State. So what's the ceiling for them? It's the college football playoff. They have the pieces to get there. They have the pieces to get to the college football playoff. They have the pieces to go on to make the ACC championship game where they will most likely play Florida State. That's how good this team is. Schedule is very, very favorable. They would have a big win over South Carolina. They'd have the win over Miami, who'd be a ranked team. And then there's a chance that Duke and maybe even Clemson could be ranked teams when they play both of them. And keep in mind, their schedule's been tough. Outside of Campbell, they don't play another FCS team. The non-conference slate was really tough. South Carolina, App State, Minnesota. They'd be the best teams in the world. But those are still solid programs. So if you look at it from a resume standpoint, North Carolina's got a pretty good strength of schedule to benefit them. And that's really, really exciting. So that was a long explanation, Gideon, but a great question. And people aren't realizing that North Carolina should be taken seriously as a playoff contender, especially if they get past Miami on Saturday night. So really exciting stuff. College football guy, good to see you, man. Nice to have you here. Yeah, we're going to take a couple questions here, get to our main topics, and then open up the phone lines. But college football guy, I'm sure we'll get a call from you. Good to see you, my guy. Jerry Turner, good to see you as well. Had a great time in Dallas. Outside of Arkansas losing, it was a great night and a great time for sure. Good to have you, Jerry. Do I think Rutgers will beat Michigan State? Michigan State beats Kim, and there's no film on the backup. It'll be homecoming. Will, yeah, I do. I really do. I predicted Rutgers to beat Michigan State back in the preseason. Talking about how important this first little bit of the season was for Rutgers to go bowling, because those last 4 or 5 games of the year are really, really tough. So Rutgers, we always said, if they wanted to make a bowl, they had to take care of business on the front end of the schedule. Michigan State is one of those games they have to win if they want to reach 6 wins. I know they bench Kim. I know they don't have much film on the backup, but Rutgers is playing some salty ball. The offense seems to finally be clicking, not just against inferior opponents. They finally seem to be gelling quite a bit. Gavin Wimsatt's been better, I think, than some have expected. The defense is really, really salty. Homecoming, obviously at home against a Michigan State team that, bottom line, isn't good regardless of who's at quarterback. It's just not going to be good. I like Rutgers to win that game. Sticking with my prediction from the preseason, really, really like Rutgers in that spot. And what would that put them? They put them like 1 win away, right? Isn't that right? Pull up my Big Ten standings here. Yeah, put them at 5-2. And Will, you know the schedule. 5-2, meaning next week is at Indiana. If they can beat Indiana, and talent-wise, Rutgers has got to beat. Again, the game's not played on paper, though. That's 6 wins. So you beat Michigan State, you beat Indiana, you're going bowling, because after that, they might honestly be able to hang with Iowa. They really, I know it's at Kinnick, but they really might be able to hang with Iowa with a backup quarterback, with McNamara being out for as long as he's going to be. An offense that's just downright atrocious. But they're not going to beat Penn State. They're not going to beat Ohio State. And Maryland's looking really good too. So I see really Rutgers needs to win their next 2 to go bowling. And I will stick by my preseason prediction and say that they will. I do think they beat Michigan State, and I do think they beat Indiana as well. Mark, take a knee, beat UNC and Clemson. Nobody cares. What's going on, Mark? Good to see you, man. We'll talk about Miami here in a second. Trust me, I got something to say on them. Definitely have you covered there. Graham, what is Clemson? I like this question. What is Clemson's biggest issue on the field, and what's their biggest issue as a program? Right now, I think Graham, you and I can agree. We've all been kind of shocked at how bad the offense has been. I think Cade Klubnik comes in, Garrett Riley comes in, Will Shipley's back, and we're like, man, Clemson's going to be good on offense. They've got the talent now. Like after the struggles they had under DJ Uiagalelei, it's like maybe we've got it. We figured it out, and they've been atrocious. They haven't figured it out. They're wildly inconsistent. Defense hasn't been terrible. I think there's a couple things in there, Graham. I think one of them could be, first off, issue on the field is a mindset issue. You look at Clemson right now. Mentally, where is this team at? They get blown out by Duke with just a ton of stupid mental errors, penalties, turnovers, things like that. Bounce back. And in that Florida State game, they seemed fired up. Dabo had them ready to go. And if you look at the box score, you go, how did Clemson lose that game? And I look at that, and when you lose a heartbreaking game like that, one that puts you out of conference title contention, one that puts you out of college football playoff contention, it's hard to bounce back mentally from a game like that. It's hard to rally the troops in your locker room to go back out there and compete at a high level every single week. Clemson's played well relatively since then. They've won games since then, but they haven't looked overly dominant, overly impressive. What were they like? 3 touchdown favorites against Wake Forest. They won by like 7. I mean, it was not a good performance against the Demon Deacons at home. I think Clemson's is kind of checked out a little bit. I also think it's partially Dabo. 17-12. Excuse me, only won by 5. I think part of it's Dabo's issue too. Dabo is failing to adapt with the times. He's failing to adjust with the times. It's I'm not going to use the transfer portal. If you're not all in, you're going to buy all in to Clemson, then we don't want you, right? Like you don't transfer from Clemson, and you don't come into Clemson. Like you either want us or you don't, and that's just not the way college football is going anymore. If you want to win in college football now, you better be ready to pony up and give out a lot of NIL money, and you better get ready to pony up and hit that transfer portal as hard, if not harder, than you're hitting the high school recruiting trail. Because, you still got to bring in those high schoolers, no doubt about it, but the transfer portal is where it's at. That's how teams are winning now. That's why you saw Colorado have some immediate success. That's why you're seeing a handful of other teams across the country, even at the lower level, at those group of 5 levels, guys that couldn't quite make it at the Power 5, go down to a group of 5, they immediately start dominating. They immediately start winning. They've got that experience. They've got that coaching. And Dabo doesn't want to do that. Nick Saban doesn't really want to do that. He's done it, but they don't want to. And if you're not prepared to adapt with the times and start doing that, paying players, giving them lucrative deals, and hitting the transfer portal, you're not going to win. You're not going to succeed. It's really unfortunate how it works, but that's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. So I think that's a handful of issues, Graham. Long story short, that's a bit of a answer to your question there. Good question, though. Excellent question. Let's see here. College football guy, will Alabama lose another game? Probably. Yeah, probably. I think they will. Tennessee could do it. LSU could do it. Auburn could do it. Like, I saw there was a beat writer. I can't remember who his name was, but he goes, there's only like 2 games left on Alabama's schedule that seem like almost guaranteed wins. And no wins guaranteed, but games we feel very confident in them winning. And one of them is this weekend against Arkansas. They should mop the floor with Arkansas. And they've got some FCS opponent like Charleston Southern or something later on in the year. Those are the only 2 games I think we can all feel confident about them winning comfortably. Like I said, Auburn could do it. Tennessee could do it. LSU could do it. And while they're benefiting from the majority of those being at home, Alabama's not invincible at home. We've seen that. So a bit of a concern there for sure. Great question. We will get to the rest of your comments here shortly. Trust me, we are going to get there. We got some great questions. I see them already. I like what I'm seeing. Cash Money, good to have you here. I love it. And we're going to address some of the responses to our analysis here, no doubt. But I want to get into a couple of things that we brought up. If I can get it pulled up here. There we go. Let's pull it up. I want to take a look at the 12-team playoff right now. Share that with you guys. Boom, there we go. I did the liberty of kind of going through and predicting a little bit. I'm not saying this is like official predictions or anything like that, but you just kind of get the layout. The point of this is just to see what it would look like this year if the 12-team playoff format was already installed. We're getting it next year, as we know, which is great, but dang, do I wish it was this year. Obviously, we have a long ways to go. These type of matchups would change drastically between now and the end of the year. But, I mean, look at this. Look at these matchups. Remember, the first 4 games you see, you're 8-9, 5-12, 7-10, 6-11. Those games are played on campus. Can you imagine Alabama going to Oregon? That's the matchup we've all been waiting to see for years. Back when the college football playoff first began, we were hoping to see Marcus Mariota and Alabama squaring off in the national championship. Instead, we got Oregon and Ohio State. We were always dreaming of seeing that in a national championship or one of those, Chick-fil-A classic games to open up the year. We never got it. So imagine Alabama going all the way out to Eugene to play Oregon. Bo Nix facing off against Alabama again. Imagine seeing Oklahoma and Texas, but the game's actually played on campus, not at the old Cotton Bowl in Dallas. Now, obviously, that matchup definitely would not happen in a 12-team playoff, more than likely, because Oklahoma and Texas have already played once. They would probably face off again, possibly in the Big 12 championship game. If that were to happen and they both were still able to get in, they would not seed them against each other. The committee just would not allow that to happen. Imagine North Carolina going to Ohio State. Imagine Wyoming having a shot at the national championship. What is this, like dynasty mode on the NCAA? I mean, you would have a chance to see Wyoming make some magical Cinderella run. Would it happen? No. They're not going to beat Penn State and Happy Valley, but at least they'd have their shot. Can't say they wouldn't have their shot. So it'd be some pretty epic matchups. And then you get into the second round, right? I mean, getting to see Georgia and Oklahoma, Michigan and Oregon, Florida State. I mean, all those matchups there would be absolutely insane. Would be so fun to watch, so entertaining. And while I threw the top 4 teams in the finals just for the sake of simplicity, Oklahoma, I think, could hang with Georgia. I genuinely do. Penn State and Washington, that is a toss-up game if I've ever seen one, especially on a neutral site. Ohio State, Florida State would be great. Oregon and Michigan, I think, would be an instant classic and would not be surprised at all to see Oregon win that game. So the point of this is not just to show you what the 12-team playoff would look like, also based on our rankings, by the way. This is based on our GE top 25 rankings, not the AP poll, because that's a load of garbage. This would be pretty amazing, not just from a matchup standpoint, but also to show that these people out there that think, oh, a 12-team playoff is going to do us no good, you're still going to end up with the same top 4 teams. I would disagree. I would disagree with that notion, because I would not be shocked to see Oklahoma win that game. I would not be shocked to see Penn State win that game. I would not be shocked to see Ohio State beat Florida State. I could see the lower seed in all 4 of those games in the Elite Eight. I could see the lower seed winning every single one of those. I wouldn't be shocked if any one of those lower seeds won. And then where's your argument? Same top 4 teams? No, because none of the top 4 teams even made it to the semifinals. Your college football playoff, your 4-team playoff, isn't even consisting of the top 4 teams. It's the 8, 5, 7, and 6. How about that? Mix and match, if you will. So that's the beauty of this format. I am a strong advocate for the 12-team college football playoff. I am very excited about the 12-team college football playoff. The format, remember, is based on the top 4 highest-ranked conference champions get that first-round bye. And then after that, the remaining 8 teams are kind of jumbled up. It's 6 at-larges, and then the other 2 conference champions, which would be a highest-ranked group of 5 conference champion, and the other power conference. Which, remember, we're not going to have 5 power conferences next year because the Pac-12 is gone. So I think I saw someone ask the question. Where is it? Someone mentioned that about wouldn't Stone Thomas, wouldn't Wyoming be the 6th seed? I thought the conference champs got the top 6. So no, they don't. The conference champs do not get the top 6 seeds. They're guaranteed a spot, but they're not guaranteed a top 6 seed. It's based on where they're ranked. So based on RGE top 25, and if you haven't watched that video, go check it out. It's already up on the channel. We had Georgia at 1. They are the SEC champion. Michigan at 2, Big Ten champion. Florida State at 3 would be the ACC champion. Well, in our rankings, we've got Penn State at 4. Penn State can't get that bye because technically we have Michigan as the Big Ten champion. So then you go to the next highest ranked conference champion, which would fall to Washington, who we have at 6. So they are 6 in our rankings, but they get the 4th spot because they are the next highest ranked conference champion. The next highest ranked conference champion after that would be Oklahoma, who's 8th. But you then have to account for Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon, all of which we have ranked above Oklahoma. And they would come in and kind of fill those gaps. So if that makes sense, there. So no, the top 6 conference champions aren't just guaranteed the top 6 seeds. It's based on where they line up ranking wise. So very, very good question there. Anyways, top 12 teams, guys. So someone say no USC. USC in our rankings is ranked 12th. Remember, just because they're ranked 12th doesn't mean they're in. Because you know what's funny about this? What's funny about that is, ironically, Wyoming boots out USC because you have to account for that group of 5 champion. The highest ranked group of 5 champions for us right now is Wyoming at 24th. They have to get their spot. And they ultimately will probably end up booting out someone like a USC or a Louisville, who we have at 13th. Someone like that. It's kind of crazy to think about. How that could work. People will be up in arms about that. And the last thing I'll say on this playoff format, guys, is you're never going to make everybody happy. That's the problem, right? If you do a 12-team playoff, well, there's going to be a handful of teams that are left out. If you do a 16-team playoff, there's going to be a handful of guys that are left out. If you do a 32-team playoff, there's always going to be someone left out. So where do you draw the line? This is enough to draw the line. No doubt about it. 12 teams is enough. You're taking all of your conference champions, every single one of them, with the except not all the group of 5. You're taking the highest ranked conference champions. You get one top group of 5 team in there, and then the rest are at-larges. You might have 2 losses in there. You might have 3 lost teams in there, and they're still going to have their shot at a natty, and that's why this is the best format. And it'll change over the next couple of years, no doubt about it, but if they stick to this, at least for next year, we're going to be in for a treat. We're going to be in for a lot of fun. On-campus games, more football, more upsets, more parity. I'm here for it. I'm all here for it. Going to talk about the AP poll here in a second. I definitely want to get to that. I want to read through the comments on this while we're fresh. Clement Akufo, yes, idiots of the week. Mario Cristobal and Jimbo Fisher. Yep, you nailed it. That is definitely number 1 and number 2, no doubt. No doubt about it. Let's see. Washington and Penn State in the playoff. Take my money. Absolutely. Yeah, we all win from that, Jerry. You're exactly right. 100%. 110% there. Let's see. Sooner Thrawn. I like that. Is that like a Star Wars reference? Is that like Grand Admiral Thrawn? Is that the reference? I'm curious. But I was a freshman at Oklahoma in 1993. Did a paper on 16 playoff and got an A. Nice. I like it. I love it. That's what we need. Stone Thomas says 64 teams. I know. I like your 64 team idea. I genuinely do. We got to discuss that more. Definitely like the stream. Hit that like button, guys. Appreciate you, Mark, for pulling that up. Goes a long way if you can like the stream, guys. Again, it helps the analytics. It gets us where we need to be. We are trying to get more subscribers. We're trying to get more expert pick sales. We're 13 away. Can you believe that? We're 13 expert pick sales away from getting to a 24-hour live stream. Like, that's unreal. Like, we're so close to that. So spread the word, guys. I mean, we're on a pull it up real quick before we get to the comments. We are on a 36-15 run against the spread. Like, we are knocking it out of the park. That's over 72, 73% against the spread right now. So if you want those picks, if you want to win with us, go sign up for those today. It's a win-win for everybody. You win, we win. We all get a 24-hour live stream. It's going to be glorious. We're 13 away. I feel confident we can get that goal by the end of the season. I genuinely do. So help us out. If you're not going to do it, spread the word to someone that you know will. Spread the word to someone you know will. Expert picks, it's down in the description below. Help us reach that goal. I know we can get it. And I want to do this, guys. I got a fridge full of coffee and energy drinks that's got my name on it, but I'm saving it for that special occasion. I'm ready to chug them. I'm ready to chug them with all of you. So help us out. Spread the word. Let's get it. I feel pretty confident about it. But again, 36-15 run, you're not going to find that anywhere else. We can guarantee you that. Not going to find anybody else that can get you those type of numbers. So spread the word, and hit that like button. Hit it up. Thrawn, I love it. Sooner Thrawn, yes. Don't get me going on Star Wars, man. If you want to start talking about Thrawn, the Ahsoka series was absolutely phenomenal. So Thrawn was in there for that. We're going to pull up the AP poll here in 1 second. Let's see here. Will Notre Dame beat USC? That prediction comes out on Thursday. I'm not going to share my analysis on that now. Come on now. You know the rules. We don't want to give away top picks here on the channel. We want you guys to go watch the videos so you can see who we're picking there. But that is going to be one heck of a game, and I think our analysis might surprise you a little bit on that game. So for all you Notre Dame and USC fans, come back on Thursday for that video. I think you're going to like what you see. Both ways. Flo, I'd love a 24-hour live stream, but I'm not trying to waste my time. I'm not sure if that's a shot at the live stream or the picks. What's that about? I don't even know what that's about, my guy. Robert, the live stream would be here on YouTube for sure. It would be here on YouTube, so we could get as many people involved as possible. No doubt about it. So it would be open to everybody. But come on now, Flo. Don't be like that. Don't be like that. All right. Last thing before we open up the phone lines, because y'all need to see this. So we got the AP poll here, and for this going into this week, and we put in our GE top 25 poll. We put those out every Monday, kind of challenging the AP poll because the AP poll is absolute garbage. And I actually had some other choice words for it, but I would probably get this video taken down if I went that route. Look, yeah, Robert, it would be. It would be on a Saturday for sure, so we could watch games with you guys. Yeah, we would. Yeah, Graham too. We would definitely be doing it on a Saturday, no doubt about it, so we could watch football all day. Yeah, come on now, come on. We've thought this thing through. We've thought it through. We were going to sit here and do a full watch party with you guys. That's the plan. So yeah, we got you covered. We got you covered every single game if we can get to that point. But you take a look at the AP poll. Look, I don't have any issues really with the top two is fine. You want to put Ohio State at 3, that's fine. I think that's a little bit premature to put them that high. Oklahoma at 5. I don't think they should have jumped that high. The win over Texas is really, really big. I could not. The win was big. I get it. And look, ultimately, these rankings are going to start shaking themselves out in the end. Washington plays Oregon this week, so one of those teams is going to lose. Penn State still has to play Michigan and Ohio State. So we're slowly things are going to start to take shape and take form. So right now, we still got a lot of football left to be played. I wouldn't put Oklahoma above Penn State or Washington or Oregon. I wouldn't. I've got them at 8th right now. They definitely deserve to be above Texas. They definitely deserve to be above USC. They definitely deserve to be over Alabama. But I've got Oklahoma at 8th. But I will admit the win over Texas obviously was very, very big, very, very impressive. Where I have my beef and where I have my issues really take place in the bottom part of the top 25. And some of you have voiced your disdain. First off, I hate the fact that we've got 2 number 19s. Just give one of them the number 20 and call it quits. I know it's based on votes. I know it's based on a point system. I understand that. So amazingly, we got the same amount of votes or we got the same amount of points cast to Tennessee and cast to Washington State. Just give one a 20 and call it done. Doesn't make that big of a difference. Neither of them are going to make the playoff anyway, so what's it matter? The 19 is just dumb. Having a tie for a ranking. So you got 2 number 19 squaring it off on Saturday. It's stupid. It's lazy. I wouldn't have dropped Notre Dame as far all the way to 21 following their loss to Louisville. Louisville deserves their rise, absolutely. But Notre Dame to 21st, I think is a little bit low. They lost at the last second to a good Ohio State team who they clearly think is the top 3 team in the country, and then they lose on the road to Louisville in a game where the defense alone for Notre Dame only allowed 24 points. 9 of the points from Louisville came off of turnovers, really. Short fields that allow for chip shot field goals. Maybe it changes Marcus Freeman's decision on going forward on 4th and 11. I don't know. But Notre Dame, that score made the game look a little bit worse than it really was, even though Sam Hartman got beat up tremendously. And again, as we said, his kryptonite is Louisville for some reason. So don't put Sam Hartman up against Louisville because he'll be screwed. And then you get to the bottom part there. LSU 22, fine. I'll make it. Here we go. Let's do this. Let's do this. All right. I'm not even a biggest advocate for I'm not a Missouri fan. I don't hate Missouri. I don't love Missouri. I don't have an issue with it. But you got a Missouri team that was 21st in the country and loses to LSU by 10 only because they threw a pick 6 with like 30 seconds left. They were down 3 points, had a chance to go win or tie the game, and threw that pick six. And they go from 21st to out of the rankings. Okay? You're Kentucky, who is 20th, loses by 38 points to Georgia, and you only drop 4? Make that make sense to me. I don't watch my mind. I don't care that they're the number 1 team in the country and that it was on the road and it was at night. If you want to call yourself a top 25 team, you don't get outgained by nearly 500 yards. That does not happen. You do not lose by 38 points and only drop 4 spots. That doesn't happen. And I don't care who you're playing. Kentucky allowed over 600 yards of offense and didn't even put up 200 of their own. That is not top 25 caliber. And again, I do not care that it was the number 1 team in the country. You do not deserve to stay in the top 25 when you play that poorly. And people, well, they beat Florida. They beat Florida pretty convincingly. Who the hell cares that they beat Florida and beat them convincingly? Ray Davis was heralded as a god after his performance against Florida. And then they go to Georgia, and he can't even muster, 30 yards on the ground? All right. Yeah, where's your God now? I mean, my God, that's ridiculous. And then Miami's your other issue, right? You lose to a Georgia Tech team. Where is the common sense when it comes to the voters in the AP poll? We've got a collection of people that call themselves the Associated Press that don't even watch a single second of the games. That's my problem here. We've got a collection of big wigs across the landscape of college. That's the biggest issue. You want to talk about the biggest issue in college football right now. It's not NIL. That's a major issue. It's not the transfer portal. The problem that we've got a bunch of big wigs that think they're all that. Again, if I wasn't going to take it down, we'd have more choice language here. That think they're all that make these executive decisions. You've got every program across the country. You've got boosters, the guys that have the money that ultimately have the final say on who this prospective school chooses as their next coach. They don't watch football. They don't understand football. That's just like with the college football playoff committee. We put guys in there that were like the former United States Secretary of State, this former athletic director who is like 75 years old, this former player, because they know what's best for the game. This former player from the 80s, mind you. The game's changed drastically in 40 years, in case you haven't figured it out. Let's let them make the exam. So then we got these AP voters that, do you understand what the AP is? It's a collection of people that have a focus on one singular team. Go look it up. Every school has their AP voter. A guy from Arkansas, a guy from LSU, a guy from Colorado. And they're the Associated Press representative from this state or from this program. So I want to cast my vote. They're homers. They're homers. They don't pay attention to anything. They don't pay attention to anything. Same with the Heisman voter. You don't want to be anybody to get a Heisman vote. You go in there, and like Christian McCaffrey a couple of years ago, it's like, hey, buddy, I just want to let you know, I think you're probably a pretty good player, but I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't stay up. I didn't stay up to watch your games out on the West Coast, so I didn't vote for you. There's this thing called YouTube. So if you're too lazy to stay up and watch Pac-12 after dark like a true college football fan, like a true guy that should do that to maintain his responsibility as a voter and do what's right for these players and these fans. If you can't do that, just go on to YouTube. But, oh, that's right. I forgot, you're probably too incompetent to know what that is. Probably too incompetent to understand what YouTube is and what the game of college football is and what Pac-12 after dark is. We've got guys running the show across the board that don't even know what the heck is going on in their own sport. And that's the problem. We got the wrong people in power. Back to Miami. They should be ranked probably like down in the 70s after what they did against Georgia Tech. How do you stay in the top 25? And I don't care that you were 17th, right? When we dropped them 8 spots, should have dropped them about 80 spots. And no disrespect to Mark or any of my Miami guys out there. But you at home And there's no home crowd at Miami anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But at home, you lost to a Georgia Tech team that the week prior allowed over 400 yards of offense to Bowling Green out of the MAC. You were so bad against that game that you had to fire your defensive coordinator. So a team that's coming in fresh off a bad loss to a team out of the MAC, you just fired your defensive coordinator and you lose. And you lose because your coach is an idiot. You lose because your coach thinks he's playing Madden and is just trying to stat pad with no consequences. You lose a game in Madden that way, that's frustrating. Maybe you chunk your controller, but guess what? There's a reset button. You can start all over again. You lose a game like that in football, you might as well just lose your damn job. That's what Mario could. I would have fired him on the spot after that BS that I watched on Saturday. That's ridiculous. Kneel the ball. There was nothing to gain from running the ball. You weren't going to score a touchdown, and even if you did, congrats. You beat a crappy Georgia Tech team by 10 instead of 3. Did you know you were a 3-touchdown favorite? Still doesn't look good that you beat them by 10 in a garbage time touchdown, so it's embarrassing. You lose to a crap team like Georgia Tech and drop only 8 spots. Mind-blowing. Kentucky should be out. Miami should be out. Give respect to someone like a Wyoming who just beat a nationally ranked Fresno State team and has the win over Texas Tech. Give it to Air Force, who has dominated every single team they have played all year long, have won every single game by 10 points. I would much rather see I think we all would, a top 25 Air Force and Wyoming matchup that they're playing this Saturday. They had top 25 North Carolina Miami matchup. Do it for the brand, they say. And that's what it ultimately comes down to. The AP poll is biased towards these respective brands. We're going to give more credit to Alabama and Miami and Tennessee and Florida State and Oklahoma. But the big dogs, the big dogs. Well, let's keep in mind that Miami hasn't been relevant since the early 2000s. I mean, come on now. You can classify as a blue blood program, but you have to understand that just because you have the title blue blood doesn't mean you get all the perks of being a blue blood. And what I mean by that is, take Nebraska, for example. They are a blue blood college football program. Historically, they are. But Nebraska doesn't deserve anything because they haven't been relevant since the Bo Pelini days. Just like Miami hasn't been relevant since the early 2000s. A couple good years here and there, sure. But when you pull crap like that, you don't really deserve the benefit of the doubt. It's a shame. AP poll's a joke. That's why we do our GE Top 25. That's why you see a lot of other channels doing their own rankings. That's why the college football playoff's a joke, because just you wait. Halloween night, there is nothing scarier than the first set of college football playoff rankings. We're going to be right here. It's on a Tuesday. Halloween is on a Tuesday. The first set of playoff rankings come out on Halloween night. We'll be right here watching the rankings coming out live with you. With you. And trust me, I will be shivering in fear, maybe a tear strolling down my face because of how scared and how sad I am about how bad the committee is. The rankings are a joke. Absolute joke. Absolute joke. And it's a disgrace to college football, a disgrace to fans, and it's a disgrace to some of the respective programs that deserve more attention. No doubt about it. All right. Got that out of my system. I'm going to answer Ty's question here. Ty, thank you for the super chat. Then we're going to open up the phone lines for a little bit. Can't wait to get you guys' thoughts on everything as we progress through the night. Ty, thank you so much for that super chat donation. That goes a long, long way. It really helps us out. Really, really appreciate that. Genuinely. What has Florida State done? Beat 22nd ranked LSU, beat another unranked team that just happens to be named Clemson. Why are they so high? That's a valid question. And here's the thing that unfortunately we can't. One thing I will only somewhat defend the AP poll on is this. We can't. So basing the rankings off of resume only, right? You're right. Basing it off of that, you probably would have them a little bit lower in the rankings. Maybe even like 15th, 16th, maybe. But when we put out those preseason polls, we've got to have a preseason poll, right? And you're basing that off of a couple things. The preseason polls are based off of, obviously, what a team did last year. It's based off of returning talent, based off of coaching. There's so many factors that go into where a team is ranked to start the year. Florida State, for example, they start the year off in the top 10. What was it, top 5? I think they were 8th, actually. I think they were ranked 8th. They ranked 8th to start the year because of what they did last year. They won 10 games, and then they returned like 17 starters this year. So you have a very experienced team from a team that just won 10 games the year before. It all kind of culminates to deserving that top 10 spot, because you can't tell me that there were many other teams that deserved to be ahead of Florida State to start the season based on what they did last year and the talent they had coming back. You just can't. They weren't many. Then they beat LSU, who at the time was 5th. We didn't know that LSU was going to struggle the rest of the way. We didn't know LSU was going to struggle to Arkansas. We didn't know they were going to barely or lose to Ole Miss. We didn't know that back then. So that win over number 5 looks really, really good, and obviously skyrockets them in the rankings. If you did the rankings on a week-to-week basis based on resume, you would easily have a team that could be 8th in the country like Florida State 2 weeks later going from 8th to 22nd. Not because they lost, not because they did anything bad, but because, your resume is not any good. And you just can't do it like that. You just can't. Unfortunately. The LSU win was impressive, even though LSU maybe isn't as good as we thought they were. The Clemson win, to me, was impressive. I think, it's not – the Clemson win, to me, they're not getting credit for that because of who Clemson is. It's because of where it was and how they won. They were destroyed across the board. And somehow found a way to come back and win that game. They won it in Death Valley, which is a very difficult place to win. A lot of people go, "Oh no, they doesn't matter. The place doesn't matter." Well, of course it matters. Keep in mind that prior to South Carolina beating Clemson in last year's season finale, they had won like 40 straight home games. That's a big deal. That's a pretty big deal. And I know Clemson hasn't been as good this year and really last year than they have been in years past, but to win that game on the road like that is impressive. Florida State might get exposed down the road. Who knows? They might get exposed to Duke. They might get exposed to, a Louisville or a North Carolina if they were to play. Maybe Miami. Maybe Miami turns things around. Who knows? But, again, why are they so high? It's because you can't lower the team after their preseason ranking. And that's really where all this culminates from, right? It's like, take again, Georgia, for example. Georgia, based on their resume alone, would not be the number 1 team in the country. That's where they started the year. They've done nothing to make us think otherwise. They start the year at number 1. Georgia has not really looked bad. And the Auburn game wasn't great, but they've won those games. They've won them convincingly. They're taking care of business. There's been nothing to say Georgia doesn't deserve to be number 1. There's nothing to say that Michigan doesn't deserve to be number 2, despite how weak their strength of schedule has been. So, really, what that comes down to, why do some of these teams stay ranked so high all year long? Credit the AP poll for ranking them so high when the preseason begins and in those preseason polls. So I hope that makes sense. I think it does. Again, you can't rank them each week as the weeks go on. You can't do that because, again, it would go from, again, like a number 1 team to a number 15 team, and they did nothing. They don't deserve to be punished there. So great question, Ty. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. It really was a good question. And it's just kind of why, it's just kind of how the ranking system is structured. Let's see here. Mark's correct. They definitely want a Miami versus UNC matchup. That's another thing the AP polls are guilty of. It's all about it's eye candy. It's what's going to look better when they're flashing that ad across ESPN. What's going to look better when you're looking at the scoreboard? It's going to look better if there's a number by each person's name. People get, top 25 matchup. Got to tune in for that. When in reality, maybe you shouldn't. Great example I can give you. Really good example I can give you is back in 2012. This is one of the many examples I can give you. I like some of these comments here. Back in 2012, Arkansas lost in Little Rock to Louisiana Monroe. The Razorbacks were ranked 8th in the country at the time, and they lost to ULM. That was the year that Bobby Petrino was fired. It was the second game under John L. Smith. It was just an atrocious year for a Razorbacks team that had national title aspirations. So Arkansas loses that game to ULM and somehow stayed ranked. Go back and look at the scoreboard. I believe CBS, because the next week Arkansas hosted Alabama. It was supposed to be this big top 10 showdown. Game day was going to go to Fayetteville had Arkansas not lost. And CBS knew when we're flashing those ads across the screen, when we've got the scoreboard up for the game, number 1 Alabama versus number 20 Arkansas is going to look better than a number 1 versus an unranked. It would have looked a lot better at Arkansas 1. I guarantee you, Arkansas, if they had found a way to survive that game in overtime, they should have dropped from like 8th to 20th because of the narrow victory. They would have kept them in the top 10 because it would have looked better. Just like Arkansas stayed in the top 10 last year when they barely survived Missouri State. And then they lost the very next week to Texas A&M, and that's how it goes. But, yeah, it's all about the eye candy, man. It's about the ads, and it's about what looks better on the screen. No doubt about it. Yeah, I just saw Rangers took a 6-0 lead over the Orioles. So Rangers to the ALCS, which is crazy. Wow, unfortunate end for the Orioles, who was number 1 seed in the AL. That's unfortunate. Liberty 10-7 over Jacksonville State. Love what we're seeing, although the Gamecocks are driving almost inside the red zone. So just, that's some good stuff over there. It's going to be a good finish over in the Conference USA play. I like what I see. All right, 2 more questions, and then we're going to get to the call line. I'm sorry, I ranted for a lot longer than I need to. Mr. Bloodline, I like having you here. Like getting to talk the Hogs with you. Thank you for your support, as always. Arkansas could have had Mike Norvell when he was at Memphis. Do you think Norvell could have turned Arkansas around the way he did Florida State, or is Arkansas just forever doomed? I genuinely, Mr. Bloodline, I don't mean to be pessimistic here. I think Arkansas is forever doomed. I genuinely do, because here's the bottom line. Here's Arkansas's issue. I'm not going to go too long on this because I will make the rest of the show about this, and I don't need to. Arkansas is about as stingy of a program and a university as they come. They will not pony up and pay a big-time coach to come to Fayetteville. They're not. They're just not going to do it. They are weak, and they are stingy. They're selfish. And it's wrong. Arkansas will never become elite, will never contend at the elite level because they simply don't want to shell out the money. Mike Norvell was probably going to cost a little bit of money. I do think he would have turned Arkansas around. I do. It would have taken some time. He's been at Florida State now, what, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is his 4th, 5th year at Florida State. And look where he's got him. Probably going to make the Cashapp playoff. Fresh off a 10-win season, which even if he didn't play for a national championship or a conference title, Arkansas would kill for a 10-win season. Well, that ain't going to happen anytime soon. Arkansas refuses to shell out the money for an elite coach. Prove me wrong. When was the last time they did that in this era? They hired Houston Nutt, little up-and-comer who, like Sam Pittman, loved the state of Arkansas. Did pretty good. Couple SEC championship trips, never won one. Had Darren McFadden, had some good seasons. Probably could have won the national championship in 1998 had Starter not stumbled, but, well, so it goes. Then they hired Bobby Petrino, who was not really a big-time coach. He had just failed in the NFL with the Falcons, needed a new job, but was good at Louisville, had a good run there. They took the risk on him. Best coach Arkansas has had since probably Frank Broyles, if we're being honest. Lou Holtz, maybe. And then they hired old Brett Bielema. That guy had run its course at Wisconsin. He had won multiple Big Ten championships, which was great in a watered-down Big Ten, a very weak Big Ten West. So congrats for doing that. Never won the big game, which was the Rose Bowl. Never got his team to the national championship. You wonder that. You won the Big Ten, but you never played for a national championship. Why? Because, believe it or not, the Big Ten West was so weak, Wisconsin could afford to lose a game or two and still win the conference, and then would beat up on a weaker team in the championship game. And then, again, he never went on to win a Rose Bowl. Came in, brought his pitiful style of play to the SEC, and it failed. Then they hired Chad Morris. That was a mistake from the moment his name was uttered in the boardroom. Once again, board members playing a role in that hire. And now they hired Sam Pittman, who's just this big old country boy who likes cold beers, and apparently that's good enough to keep him around for 5 years. They're never going to shell out the money to hire in a true, proven coach to come in and win the games. It's just not going to happen. So what Arkansas is going to do when they inevitably fire Sam Pittman, whether that's this year, next year, whenever, they need to fire him this year if they want to have any sort of semblance and trying to remain relevant, but they won't. They needed to say, you know what? We got to go get somebody big. It doesn't have to be a guy who's won a championship. It doesn't have to be one of the greatest coaches of all time, but it's got to be someone that's proven, a guy that knows how to utilize the transfer portal. Not Deion Sanders, by the way. You do not want Deion Sanders if you're Arkansas. But what Arkansas will do is they'll probably go out there and they'll hire some little up-and-comer, this offensive coordinator looks pretty solid, or they'll hire someone from the low-level Group of 5 program that's like, oh, yeah, he had one good year at App State, like Missouri did when they hired Eli Drinkwitz. Oh, yeah, he had one good year at James Madison or Georgia Southern. And then, you'll have one decent year, then they'll ultimately have to fire him too. Arkansas is forever doomed because their administration is incompetent. And their board members have way too much money and play too much of a role in these hiring processes. So that is the problem for Arkansas. You don't really see other programs having these issues. I'm not saying other programs don't have coaches that fail. Plenty of them do, no doubt about it. But you don't see many teams consistently fail over and over and over again and make the same mistakes over and over and over again like Arkansas does. And that's their problem. The pitiful, pitiful, pitiful program. No doubt about it. Let's see here. What else we got? Last question, Gideon. That was the one I was going to make a point on. Coaches like Stoops, Riley, Traylor, Dabo, and Gundy have made really interesting comments about NIL, college football landscape, and early retirement. Will a high-profile coach step away? If so, who? Great question, Gideon, and I want to hit that real quick. I'm going to come back to this. I want to give a major shout out to my guy Max, who just dropped the major super chat. Max, my guy, thank you so much. Good to see you again, man. Yes, please stop by. Please stop by. I understand. Like, life gets busy, man. We had some issues last week, too. We didn't even have a live stream, so I completely understand. But, Max, thank you so much for the super chat, for your support. We really, really appreciate you being here. That score prediction's accurate. I'm not even going to argue that. Honestly, I think Arkansas would be lucky to score 14 on Saturday, as bad as their offense has been. So great prediction. Bama's going to roll pretty heavily on Saturday, so add that to your win column and keeping those playoff hopes alive, my guy. But, Max, thank you so much for that donation, for the super chat. And, again, thank you for stopping by. We'll be here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time, so stop by anytime. We definitely miss having you around, that's for sure. So good seeing you, man. Really, thank you. And Mr. Bloodline, of course. Hey, I'm here to offer best insight I can give you, man. Truly, I am. And sometimes the truth is hard to swallow, but it's true. If you go back and look at the history, it's the way it is. It's what Arkansas does. It's what Arkansas does. They don't learn from their mistakes. They don't even learn from their mistakes on the coaching staff. How many times have you seen them fail on 4th and 1 this year because they line up in shotgun? Good teams and good programs and good administrations learn from their failures. Arkansas does not, and they never have. Gideon, last question before we take calls. I'm sorry for delaying it so long. Y'all have been fantastic in the chat tonight. Bringing the heat, I should say. Which high-profile coach will step away if it happens? Well, I want to just the first part of that comment. You're exactly right. These coaches, this isn't what they signed up for. And actually, if you look at it, you're gonna see what I'm doing here. Go to college basketball for a second. You got guys like Jim Boeheim, Coach K at Duke. Both those guys were getting very old. They were definitely reaching the end of their career. Some of the best to ever do it. Part of the reason I think both those coaches chose to step away when they did was because of the changing landscape just in college sports as a whole. They were like, look, I didn't sign up for this. I'm not looking to almost beg these transfers to come in here. Please come play for Duke. Please, or whoever your program is. I'm here to recruit high schoolers. I'm here to recruit players. You're going to come and you're going to do it our way. I'm not here to say, well, if you come for us, well, I'm not looking to get into a bidding war with a college player. This is not the NFL. This is not the NBA. But that's what it has become. It's become a bidding war. There's rumors going around now of players charging programs for visits. It's like, if you want me to come visit your school, pay me $50,000. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? And the problem is the players now have all the leverage. They've got all the leverage. Because you can do that. You want me to come visit? Pay me. I'm not going to pay you to visit. Fine, I'm not coming. And now you miss out. So So the landscape's changing, and it's not changing in the right way because we're getting in. It's basically become free agency. It's free agency at the college level, and so what this now essentially goes, big run by Liberty there, nice, is the G League. It is the G League for NFL. It's the G League for NBA, and it's not what it was supposed to be. This isn't what it's supposed to be. You were supposed to go play at these programs because they were the best one. They gave you the best chance to win. They gave you the best chance to develop you to take that next step. They gave you the best chance just to play college football. Maybe you're not good enough to make it at a Power 5 program, but you know what? I'm going to New Mexico State. I'm going to UTEP. I'm not going to contend for titles, but at least I get to play football. But now it's all about money. What can you do for me? What can you do for me? Not what can I do for you, coach? What can I do for you, program of my choice? How can I help you? How can I help myself? It's me. Give me money. The college game is transferred into a selfish landscape, and you're basing it off the NIL. You're basing it off of all these deals. You're also basing it off, look around the field, man. You genuinely, I don't know many players and many teams anymore where players feel remorse for losing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that passion is there anymore for many programs across the country. Because why would you be upset? Oh, no, we just got our ass kicked by 38 points, says Kentucky. But you know what? At least I still have my millions of dollars. At least I still have my nice Corvette that was gifted me by the local car dealership. Like, if you're in, who cares that we just got destroyed? I've still got all this stuff. Where's your sense of pride? I'm not saying that no one has the pride. I'm not saying that none of the players care, but I think that mindset has changed. You go take a look 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Take a look at some of those Alabama teams, those LSU teams, some of those elite teams back in the day. They were physical. They were tough. They cared. They wanted it. And now it's just like, whatever. Yeah, we want to win. We're going to go out there and try. But now I'm just trying to do anything I can do to boost my analytics, to boost my stats. What's going to be best for me and me long term? And what can I gain from it? What kind of money can I get? What kind of house can I get? What can you do for my family? Can you give me a car? And if you don't do that, well, I'm leaving. You saw that happen at Miami. What was it? I think it was like Isaiah Wong or something like that. He was like, hey, Miami, pay me or I'm leaving. Miami was like, no. And like, all right, I'm out. They're like, wait. Okay, fine. We'll pay you. Here's some money to stick around. And it's wrong. That's not what this is about. And so, yes, Gideon, coaches like Stoops, Riley, Traylor, guys like that, they're making those comments. And I mentioned that early retirement. It's like, you know what? I'm making millions as a coach as it is. I ain't getting paid enough. I mean, you are getting paid enough. Look, I'd kill to make $3-4 million a year. But, you know, this isn't what I signed up for when I started coaching. This is why I got into coaching. I'm not looking to get into bidding wars. I'm not looking to deal with boosters who are going to try to pay this much money for this star quarterback to come play for us. I'm looking to recruit my way and play my way. What high-profile coach steps away? Don't know exactly who it could be. I will tell you this, though. I think Nick Saban's slowly on his way out. I used to believe as early as this year that Saban had at least 5 more years left in him. I don't think he does anymore. I think the landscape is getting too tough for him. I think we've seen that based on the struggles that Alabama has faced so far this year. I think Alabama, I'm not saying they can't get back to their dominance like we've seen in recent years, and certainly back in the early 2010s. But I think Nick Saban will be out sooner than we think. And it's going to be a mixture of, they're going to decide at his older age, but I think it's because he's lost his touch. And not even that he lost his touch, the game has changed so much. He's like, I can't keep up with this anymore. I can't keep up with NIL anymore. I can't keep up with this anymore. I'm done with this. And that would be my first pick. That would be my first pick. There are some coaches that enjoy that rush. Deion Sanders is a fan of that. Lincoln Riley is a fan of that. The NIL, the transfer portal. Lane Kiffin is another example of that. Guys that thrive with that. Coaches like Saban right now, Dabo right now, Sam Pittman at Arkansas even. Guys that are kind of against this change to the college football landscape. That's why their programs are struggling, and that's why they might slowly be out. Not of a job because they're going to get fired, but they're just like, screw this. I'm done with this. So great question, Gideon. That would be my pick there. That was a really long answer for you, but that's kind of my take on it. And it's a shame that's kind of how it's taking place. And the problem that the NCAA did with that was I'm not even opposed to some players getting paid. I'm not even opposed to the transfer portal. But they began those rules and they began that ability for that with no restrictions. There were no rules. It was just like, here you go. Pay as much money as you want to as many players as you want. You can transfer 10 times in one season for all we care. You had to put some guidelines on it, and they didn't. And now you can't go back. Because as soon as you go back, it all crumbles down, and they know that. Notre Dame USC prediction coming out on Thursday, so stay tuned. Not going to share my pick for that yet, but that's coming out then. And Stone Thomas, passion is there for the players. It's an unfair take. I think a few players cry after loss this season. Maybe that doesn't say much, but something. It is to an extent. I'm not saying that all players are like that. I made sure to preface that. They're not every player doesn't care. Not all players are just like, whatever. But if you take the mindset of a player from 15 years ago and compare it to one now, it's drastically different. Drastically different. Because, again, at the end of the day, when you're a player, especially if you're a star player that's getting paid $3 million to play college football, $3 million plus a new car, plus a new house, why would you care? Yes, you want to win. Who doesn't want to win? We all do. But if I lose or if I have a bad game, oh well, I'm going to go take my millions, go sleep in my nice big bed, take my nice new car out for a joy. What frustrates? I mean, you see players all the time. You just got embarrassed on your home turf, and they're out there partying at the bars right after the game. I would be embarrassed to do that. Maybe I'm old school. But if I got destroyed out there on the field, and 2 hours later, I'm out there partying it up at the frat house or out on, whatever the big alley of bars is in your college town. I don't know. I'm not saying you got to sit in your room and be all depressed all day. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying take a little bit of pride in what and just, respect in what you just put out there. You win, party it up. You lose, well, let's focus on what we did wrong, especially if you lost by, 38 points. But we see that way too much, and that's my issue with it. And again, maybe I'm old school, but I don't know. That's just me. Let's see. Yeah, Gideon, of course. I appreciate you. Appreciate the question, my man. Really do. That was a great, really, really good question. All right, let's open up the phone lines for a little bit. They won't be open as long as we anticipated. Whew. Y'all got me fired up tonight. Talk about welcome back. I'm glad that we did a live stream tonight. I'm telling you. But the phone line is open for a little bit. 870-586-6624. We'll try to limit those calls to roughly 5 minutes or so so we can get through as many as we can, especially since we open them a little bit later than anticipated. So let's get to it. Got our first caller with us right now. And since we do not have caller ID, I have no idea who this is. So welcome to the Gridiron Expert. Who's with us?
College football guy. How's it going, Alex?
Hey, doing good, man. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. Just be glad to be home from a rough day at work talking some college football.
Man, I feel that, my guy. I really do. It's there's no better escape from the real world than college football,
Yeah, exactly. Well, before I get to a couple questions, I want to ask you, how was the Texas A&M Arkansas game?
It was good, man. It was a really good time. It'd been years since I had been down to Dallas at AT&T Stadium, and that stadium still is just state of the art. So really good atmosphere, really good group of people. Outside of the outcome of the game, I would say we had a really good time. And so then, we did that, got to explore Dallas for a little bit, and then went to the Cowboys-Patriots game the very next day, and that was a good time as well. So had a great trip. Yeah, it burnt, wallet was empty by the end of the weekend, but I'd say it was worth it.
I bet. Oh yeah, you only live once, like we all say. So better take it. You better do it when you can.
Absolutely, man. 100%. Got to live life to the fullest. I used to not do that, till recently. I'm very glad I kind of had the change of heart.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I got a couple questions to ask. First one I really want to get into is, first, I agree with you about the AP poll. I mean, it's been a complete waste of time, really, since really when it first started anyway. You and I both know that. So
Absolutely.
But like you said, though, the really one thing that we're all concerned about, unfortunately, we don't have no control over, it's just the college football playoff rankings. And I'm glad at least this is the last year of it. But at the same time, like you said, they always seem to make mistakes, and that's what's really costly. Because while we can say the AP poll's crap, at least it doesn't count towards the playoff rankings, thankfully. But with so many teams, kind of just who's number one, who's number two, it's going to be. You just hope that the playoff ranking committee doesn't get it wrong, but they will some way or somehow. So season 2 amazes me. But we'll see. Anyway, my first question I want to get to, I want to talk a little bit, and it was the question I wanted to ask last week when it started is, what happened to LSU, especially the defense? I mean, we knew the secondary was question mark, but I didn't know it was going to be that bad. But what I was really shocked about is how bad the front seven's been. I mean, 300 yards rushing allowed against against Ole Miss, and they seem to be progressing worse as weeks go out. I mean, it just seems like the whole defensive unit of LSU is just going downhill, and I'm just dumbfounded, especially about how bad that front seven is. It's like Perkins Jr. and Mason Smith, we heard all offseason how great they were. They've been non-existent. So, do you know why LSU's defense has just been so terrible?
Yeah, that's a kind of one of the biggest mysteries of this season, right? Is you walk into the year, top 5 team in the country, playoff aspirations, and the defense was something that I was even praising back in the preseason. I know we all were. I mean, like you said, we knew the secondary was going to be a little suspect. If there was going to be a weakness, that was going to be it. But, man, that defensive line, that linebacking core was so strong, and they have just been torched. And part of me wonders, maybe they just weren't – honestly, the simplest way to say it could be they just weren't as good as we thought they were. But – part of me almost wonders if there was a mental issue for LSU. And they get all this hype. They're really high on themselves. Then they go into that Florida State game and just get battered. I mean, just destroyed against Florida State. And I almost wonder if we talk about the mental factor for a lot of teams and the ability to rebound. LSU did rebound after a couple games after that, but defensively, they really didn't. They should have lost to Arkansas. They got torched against Ole Miss. Did the defense ever fully recover from that Florida State game, knowing, hey, one more loss and we're out of this playoff race? We are clearly not as good as we thought they were. And honestly, teams got some ideas from Florida State after watching how bad they got destroyed. It was like, oh, we know LSU's weak, and there's no one been there to stop them. So I don't have a good – there hasn't been any major injuries. There haven't been any major controversies. It's just I think we almost overhyped this LSU defense to a flaw, and they've just been drastically exposed all year long.
And, LSU has the offense to be a playoff type of offense. But it's the defense that's holding them back. They are USC of the SEC. That is the best way I can describe it.
That's a valid. Yeah, that's valid. I'll take that.
I hate to say it. I think LSU's defense is worse than USC's. I honestly do.
Man, I'd kill to see it. I'd love to see that in a bowl game, man. I don't think either of them's going to make the playoffs. So,
but when it comes in now to, I don't know if they're going to beat the teams like Auburn and Florida. I hate saying that. They should. Maybe they might be able to win a shootout, but with how bad the defense is, they'll probably think Auburn and Florida's offense looks like high playoff contention type of offenses. I'm really concerned for LSU. They're not beating Alabama. I don't know if they're going to beat. I doubt they beat A&M. And they're probably dropping one more, 2 games along the way. I mean, it's all because of that defense. If I'm an LSU fan, I'm concerned can we get to an 8-4 season? I mean, I know Brian Kelly's trying to get fixed, but man, there just seems to be no answer. So if I'm an LSU fan, I'm very concerned about this Auburn game coming up. I think this Auburn game is going to define the rest of their season. Really, if they can find a way to beat Auburn, maybe they can get some confidence. But I'm really the LSU could very well lose that Auburn game just because of their defense. I hate saying that.
Yeah, the beauty of this game for LSU against Auburn, I mean, you're right. If the defense doesn't get it together, then they're going to be in for a much longer season than any of us anticipated. But the beauty of it is Auburn is so one-dimensional. LSU's weakness clearly is the front seven. It's clearly stopping the run. But Auburn has no passing game. So if I'm Brian Kelly, I am selling out on stopping the run. I am stacking that box and daring Auburn to beat me through the air because they can't do it. They just can't do it. They're just a run. LSU shuts that down. I don't have faith in Auburn being able to stop LSU's offense. It's in Death Valley. It's at night.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I really like LSU. But you're right. I mean, if LSU doesn't strategically prepare for that, if they haven't done their job of watching the film and saying, good Lord, Peyton Thorne can't beat us through the air. Auburn certainly can't beat us by throwing. All we have to do is stop the run and we're fine. Then the game's going to be a lot closer than it needs to be. But I think surely they get a little momentum following that big road win at Missouri. They're back home. They hopefully should be able to take care of business.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to hog up the phone lines too much. I got a couple more questions to ask you, but you can answer us once I get off the phone.
Sure.
So you can get to some other callers.
Absolutely.
Next question I have is, since we're halfway through the season and we kind of have an idea of teams, do you have an updated playoff rankings and championship?
All right. I like that.
Second question is, I had it on the tip of my tongue. Second question is, halfway through the season, who's been the most disappointing team? Who's been the most impressive team? And then last but not least, last is, in the Big Ten East.
All right.
Well, no, not the Big Ten East. In the Big Ten East, without seeing, halfway through the season, has there been a Big Ten East team that has kind of stood out as the number one team out of that division? Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State. In your opinion right now, without any of them playing each other right now, who do you think is the best of the bunch? Because they seem to have been all up and down this halfway through the season. So if you could answer those 3 questions for me, I'll be good. I'll let you go so you can get to some other callers. I appreciate your time, GE.
Hey, college football guy, we appreciate you, my guy. Thanks for calling in, man.
All right, see you.
All right, love it. Got some great. So whoever was calling in before him, give us a call back. We apologize for missing the call. We don't have screeners, it's got a little bit more difficult to have a call on, then put them on hold to answer your call, to put you on hold. It gets all jumbled up, unfortunately. I wish it was like a full-fledged radio station, but great call in from college football guy. Phone lines are still open. Hit that like button. 870-586-6624. That is the number to call. And we're taking a few more calls tonight. In the meantime, shout out to Dennis Stokes. Good to see you, my guy. Glad we got everything squared away earlier this afternoon. But Dennis, we thank you for calling in, man, or thank you for being here and for your support. It goes a very, very long way, and we're pretty pumped to have you on our team, man. We really are. So thank you for being here. Finally getting a call. Let's get him in here. All right, let me pull him up. Jeez. Again, no caller ID. So welcome to the Gridiron Expert. Who do we have with us?
Gary.
Gary, how are you? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you said it was Gary, right?
How are you?
Hey, doing well. How are you, man? You doing all right?
I'm doing all right. I don't want to be on too long tonight, so we can answer the calls. I just have 2 questions. They're simple ones.
Sure.
The first one, my wife wants to know. She's a Maryland Terrapin fan. She wants to know what the outlook is after their loss to Ohio State.
Okay, who's the Maryland fan? I didn't catch that first part.
My wife.
Your wife. All right. Yeah. Well, man, tell her that that Maryland's going to be just fine. I was really. I'm pulling up their schedule right now so I can take a look. I'll give you an official record prediction. Was really impressed with them against Ohio State. I know they lost by 20, but if you watch the game, you know that game was a lot closer than a 20-point game. I mean, what were they? It was a 3-point game entering the fourth quarter. They played them tough. So a lot of credit to Maryland for that. 5-1, man. You should win your next 2 games. I think they'll cruise past Illinois. They'll cruise past Northwestern. So that's 7 wins already. They'll probably beat Rutgers. I really, Gary, could see Maryland winning 8 or 9 games this year. I mean, their toughest games left are Penn State and Michigan. They get both of them at home. Nebraska's a trap game, sure, but I'm thinking probably about 8 wins for Maryland, which is a really, really good season for them.
Okay. I'm going to see 8-9 too.
Yeah, they're looking good, man. I think that's yeah. Your wife should be pleased with that. They're going to a solid bowl game, no doubt about it.
Okay. And question for 2. This is pretty much what's been the thing tonight with NIL and transfer portal. I don't know if you saw the news, but in Kentucky, there had some pretty interesting comments Monday. The press is about NIL transfer portal. Start with, of course, Babers and this press was actually he said, well, we have no depth now with all our injuries because transfer land and the other teams loved them and had them trade. And his coach said, well, we lost to Georgia by 38 because they have bought the players, and if you want us to win, you're going to have to pay us more. Just want to know what you thought of those comments.
Yeah, well, I wasn't. You're breaking up a little bit, Gary. I wasn't able to hear the first one, but I will answer your second one about Mark Stoops saying that with Kentucky and Georgia. I thought it was really interesting, and it's a great question, actually. You know, for those of you that are watching, that if you couldn't hear him, he was bringing out the Mark Stoops comments he made following the loss against Georgia, basically saying, look, Georgia's over there paying their players, which is legal. They're bringing in these guys because they're paying them. He goes, so you kind of want us as Kentucky to match them? Well, start chipping in, start donating. Let's get it. It was interesting, Gary, to hear a coach blatantly come out and say that. Typically, you don't hear a coach come out and say that publicly, but it's true. What he said is 100% true. Bottom line also, though, with that is, while it is true, a player is more than likely going to want to go to Georgia than Kentucky. They have more resources. They have more money. They are going to win. Georgia is going to be in the hunt for a national championship year in and year out. Kentucky is not. But that is the state of college football that we're in, unfortunately, is, hey, look, if you want to compete, it's really highest bidder. You've got to go out there and lure these guys in, both transfer portal guys and high school recruits, with money, no longer what you're selling as a program. That plays a little bit of a role, but not nearly as much as what you can truly offer these players, which is cars, houses, money, free whatever. So honestly, I applaud Mark Stoops for saying what he said. I applaud him for putting it out there. What he said was factual. What he said is true. It's not unfair, but it is the real deal, and it's kind of just the harsh reality of the world of college football that we're living in right now.
And what Serge, I meant to say was, there for the press conference, said, well, we can't beat North Carolina, we can't beat Florida State because that was geared to the portal.
Yeah, they can't. You're saying they can't beat them. Babers was saying that because he can't beat them because of the portal. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Are coaches going to be using that as an excuse? Or is this just the use of for programs, Syracuse, Arkansas, when they go up against Georgia, Florida State?
Here's my argument that I think that actually is more of an excuse than anything else, because while it does change the game drastically, take those teams you just mentioned. Take a Syracuse, an Arkansas, a Kentucky. Those teams weren't beating the elite teams before the transfer portal really became a big deal. Go back 8-9 years ago. Arkansas wasn't beating Alabama. They weren't beating Georgia. Syracuse beat Florida State once a few years ago. I get that. Every year, these teams have their ups and downs. But bottom line is these lower-level programs, before the transfer portal got big, they weren't winning against these elite squads anyways. It wasn't happening. And you can't blame that on the transfer portal. You blame that just straight up on recruiting and pedigree. It's how well are you recruiting at the high school level and the pedigree of being a winner or not. Syracuse wasn't a winner. Arkansas wasn't a winner. Kentucky wasn't a winner. And that's just a handful of programs. So why would I want to go to any of those schools when I could go to an Alabama or a Georgia or a Ohio State or a Michigan, a place that has a richer history, a place that I know can develop me into an NFL player, and a place that I know that during my couple of years I'm in college, I might actually have a chance to win and enjoy my time there instead of being on a 2-10, 3-9 a team year in and year out. So yes, the game has changed quite a bit. Yes, the transfer portal plays a role. Yes, it does give some of those lower schools a bit of a disadvantage, but they were at the same disadvantage way before the transfer portal really got going. You got to adapt with the times. Adapt with the times or get out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, great. 100%. Great question, though. Fantastic question.
Okay. Congrats on last week. What was the winning percentage? 92, something like that. It was really high.
Yeah, it's been a really good run for us, man. Thank you. We're hitting over 75% in our best bet section against the spread. We're on a 36-15 run, 227 and 50 something on the money line. I mean, it's been a really good year, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I've been spreading the word about you.
Well, man, that means the world, man. The more we have word of mouth or on social media, the more we can grow, the more sales we can make, and that helps our channel grow tremendously. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for calling in. Have a great night.
You too. Take care.
All right. That's my man, Gary. I love it. Great question. That was a really good question. And a great discussion as well. It is interesting to see coaches making those type of comments there, but I applaud them for the most part for saying them, because speak out, man. You gotta speak up. Gotta speak out. Eventually, if there can become, and there won't be, but if there was enough pushback on something would change possibly. This isn't politics where nothing gets done. This is college football where typically nothing still gets done, but at least I have a little bit more hope. Not to get political. But great call in by Gary. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to answer college football guys' questions. Phone lines will remain open here for a little bit. 870-586-6624. We'll keep them open for a little while to get a couple extra calls in if we have that opportunity. But I do want to answer those. Graham, I see your comment there. I think that was interesting from you, that you had a friend who was at Georgia at a group of 5 school a few years ago and had the same mentality. Hated seeing the team or coaches out partying after a loss. Didn't think it was right after losing. I don't think it is either. I mean, it's one of those things where, someone's going to play devil's advocate and go, oh, they're college kids. Let them have their fun. Oh, come on. Let them go. They've worked so hard. Let them go blow off some steam. Okay. But you just got beat 58-0 at home. I just wouldn't want to have my face shown. I mean, honestly, what positives are there to take away from that? Where in any world is that acceptable? It's like doing a project at work, and you go to the board, your corporate job, and you go pitch it, and they absolutely just crap all over your project, tell you that it was horrible, and you just bombed it. Are you going to walk out of that office going like, well, time to go party? You might go drink your sorrows away after something as bad as that, but let it be clear these players, these coaches are not going to the bar out of despair. They're going out there for the partying aspect. And it's just, I just don't think that's okay. I don't think that's okay. I don't think it's all right to reward mediocrity or to reward failure. Because you know what? That's not teaching them anything. And it's also unfair, man. I think about the players, or I think about the fans. I think about us as fans, man. Your team's not going to win every game. Your team's not going to show up for every game. Every team goes through some rough stretches. Every team suffers blowout losses and embarrassing moments. It happens. It happens. But when it happens consistently, you need change. And if it's not, if no one's going to put forth that change, if the administration's not going to make the change, if the coach's not going to make the change, like, it's wrong for us as fans or any fans out there to pay a crap ton of money. All tickets are extremely overpriced. So you're paying for the money. You're paying for the travel. You're paying for the lodging if you stay overnight. You're paying for this and that and the other just to watch your team completely crap the bed. And then how do they feel if that you're upset? You're like, oh my God, my day is ruined. We just got beat. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. I'm scared to wear my team's logo out in public after that beat down. Whereas the players who got beat down are out there celebrating like nothing happened. In what world is that okay? Where does anyone see that anything okay with that? So great point. Dennis Stokes, again, good to see you, man. Glad you're here. Gideon, answer that question real quick. Then we'll go to college football guys' questions. Off the wall topic, do I think Temple quarterback E.J. Werner could head to Power 5 in the offseason? His name helps him for sure. His name helps him, obviously being the son of Kurt Warner. That's a pretty big deal. And he's been pretty solid with Temple. He hasn't been bad. I'm particularly, he was solid last year. I'm pulling up his stats right now, Gideon. That's a great question. Temple's 2-4. He's already thrown for over 1,700 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. So pretty solid year. Last year he was pretty solid too. My gut says no. He could, and someone would take him. A lower level Power 5 team, right? Like lower level. Not an elite contender or anything. But he could do it. I don't think he will. I think he'll stick around at Temple. So my gut tells me. But if he does go Power 5, he goes lower end. Lower end transfer. He's not gonna go play for a better contender. Even a middle of the pack team that maybe can make a run at a contender. I'm just throwing this team out there as the best example. Like a Northwestern would be like a type of team that I'd go to. Like Northwestern's not contending for a championship or anything next year or anything like that. Warner could transfer there. We know they're kind of in quarterback turmoil though. Northwestern's 3-3 right now, playing much better ball than we thought. So yeah, great, interesting question though. I like that. Very, very off the wall, but I like it. And I've always been a fan of E.J. Warner. Last year wasn't the best year for Temple, wasn't the best year for him, but they showed a lot of promise. I was like, this guy's got it. And you would expect him to, right? Being the son of Kurt Warner. This year, it's kind of all coming together for him. The downfall for Temple, kind of like LSU, their defense, giving up over 219 passing yards, over 204 rushing yards. It's not the offense's fault. It's not his fault. They're averaging nearly 300 passing yards per game, but the defense can't do anything, and Temple's 2-4. I mean, look at that. They had a 34-point output against UTSA and still lost by 15. They had a 26-point output against Tulsa and still lost by 22. So it's the defense that's holding them back. But winnable games coming up. They got some winnable games coming up. And probably won't go bowling, but enough to keep stat padding. That's for sure. Good question, Gideon. I like it. Mark says Matt Brown's going to take a loss on Saturday. Mario takes a very small victory lap and calls it even. I'm sure that if Miami can beat North Carolina, I'm sure all will be forgiven. Well, for the most part, it would be forgiven down in Miami after his blunder last week. You go on the road and beat a good North Carolina team, I'm sure we can forget about that for a little bit. We can turn a blind eye to what you did against Georgia Tech. So I guess we'll see. That prediction, Mark, North Carolina, Miami, that prediction comes out on Thursday. Stay tuned. If you want to mark it down on your calendar, tomorrow is Washington and Oregon. Thursday is USC and Notre Dame and Miami and North Carolina. And then Friday will be the other Pac-12 showdown between Oregon State and UCLA. So big stuff coming your way. And I do agree with Mr. Glassman here. If USC loses to Notre Dame, their playoff hopes are screwed. I 100% agree with that. Because if they lose to Notre Dame, you're right. They still have Oregon. They still have Washington, and they will not beat both of those, if any of them. Oregon is in Eugene. Washington's offense is absolutely unreal. So, yeah, I agree with you. If USC loses to Notre Dame, they're done for. Which would be – I have nothing against USC. I really don't. But, man, like, talk about chaos. If I ever say anything about your team, like, oh, I hope they lose, it's not because I don't like your team. It's because more like I'm just advocating for chaos. And a USC loss will completely blow up the Pac-12 race, opens the door for a team like Washington or Oregon, whoever wins on Saturday, kind of puts them in the driver's seat. It'll muddy things up come late November. I love chaos, and I love walking into Selection Sunday, maybe not knowing who's going to be in the Final Four. You know most of them, right? You know probably Georgia's going to be 1. Michigan will be 2, assuming they both continue to take care of business. But I love it if we're like, who's 3? Who's 4? Like, we feel pretty confident it's going to be this team, but maybe not. Like, who knows? I want chaos. I want chaos. And I love it when we see a team that's like 8th, right? Like a team that's ranked 8th heading into championship weekend. You're like, they're going to need some miracles to slip in there. And then all of a sudden, like every team ahead of them loses. And it's like, oh my God, we just went from 8th to 4th. We're going to play for a national championship, or at least have that shot. So it's the beauty of college football, man. Really is pretty something special. Let's see. So let me answer college football guys' questions real quick, and then we'll slowly start to tie things up in a nice little bow and wrap things up tonight on a beautiful Tuesday evening. So we want to thank you guys all for being here again. You asked me my updated playoff picks. My picks back in the preseason, I don't have them in front of me. I know I had Georgia, Michigan, USC, and Clemson, I think. I had Clemson. So that was a screw up on my part. Had a lot higher expectations for Clemson this year than they turned out. I really thought they might put things together, and they did. Yeah, it was Georgia versus Clemson, Michigan, USC. I'm pretty sure. No. Georgia, USC, Michigan, Clemson. That was my playoff pick back in the preseason. Obviously, that has changed drastically. Now my top 4, my playoff picks: Georgia and Michigan for sure, still in there. That's still number 1, number 2 in my eyes until proven otherwise. 3, I'm sticking with Florida State, man. I'm riding Florida State. If you look at Florida State and their schedule, it's so easy the rest of the way. And that's why I like them so much. I don't know who's going to beat them. We talked about that back in the preseason. The toughest games on Florida State's schedule were LSU and Clemson, and they won both. Who's beating them the rest of the way? They host Syracuse. They host Duke. They host Miami. The only road games they have left this year are at Wake Forest, at Pittsburgh, and at Florida. And I don't know if they're going to lose any one of those games. All the biggest games they have left are at home. The 2 currently ranked teams that are still on their schedule are at home. They'll go to the ACC championship game and play. Could be North Carolina. Maybe it's a rematch against Duke. Maybe it's Louisville. I don't know. But more than likely, Florida State will stroll into the ACC championship undefeated. And if they play a very highly ranked team, not some low-level team, they play a top 10, top 12, UNC, Duke, whoever it may be, a win gets them in the playoff, no doubt about it. A loss, I think, could keep them in as well, depending on what happens around the other conference championship games. We've seen it happen before where Georgia has lost to Alabama before, and Georgia still gets in. Florida State is in a different situation, though, because whoever Florida State loses to, unless someone like North Carolina is undefeated or Duke runs the table or whatever, whoever beats Florida State in the ACC championship game probably wouldn't get in with them. So it's a tough spot. But I like Florida State, man. That the talent's there. The schedule is there. I think they run the table the rest of the way. So Georgia, Michigan, Florida State. And then I'm going to sub out USC, obviously, and put in Washington. I think Washington has the best offense in the entire country. If they can stay healthy, I think they're in really good shape. I think they probably will actually slip up once this season. Maybe that's this Saturday against Oregon. Maybe it's against USC later in the year. Maybe it's against Oregon State in Corvallis in the second to last week of the season. I don't know where it'll be. They will lose a game, but I don't know if they're going to lose 2 at this rate. Defense still needs some work. Defense is going to be better, but I'm going to go with Washington. And I think they'll get revenge or at least maybe win twice over Oregon or USC, whatever it is, in the Pac-12 championship game. Because regardless, they're probably going to end up having a rematch against Oregon or USC or somebody like that in the Pac-12 title game. Just like we might see in the Big 12, maybe seeing Oklahoma and Texas facing off in the Big 12 again. So really intriguing game there. And Washington, the Pac-12 as a whole is just really intriguing, but I'm going to sub them in. Give me Washington. So Georgia versus Washington, Michigan, Florida State. That's what I have as of now. In my national championship will be Georgia and Michigan. And my pick to win it all this year currently is none other. Draw down. Michigan. I'm picking Michigan to win the Natty. And right now, that probably will remain my pick unless Michigan just implodes or something happens to them or some other team that makes me completely change my mind. But right now, I think Michigan is the most complete team in the entire country. They're playing really good ball, and I think they're going to win the national championship as of right now. Good question. Second question was disappointing and impressive. There could be a list a mile long for both. Disappointing teams. Arkansas comes to mind for sure. They've been that's just maybe a bias thing. I don't know, but Arkansas has been really, really bad. A team that wasn't expected to contend for anything, but at least another 7-8 win season maybe, and they're going to be 2-5 by the end of this weekend. So a really, really bad year for Arkansas. Enough that I think Sam Pittman should get fired. He won't, but he should. That's been a really disappointing team to me. TCU, drastically disappointing. No one expected them to bounce back and contend for another Big 12 title. No, but ironically, when I was looking at TCU, their schedule was so favorable early on. I said, this could be a team that starts 6-0, 7-0, 6-1, somewhere around there. And they're like 3-3 right now. So they have definitely not done as well as I thought they would do early on. Clemson, Glassman is another one. Notre Dame is another one, if I'm being completely honest with you. Notre Dame, I really thought would be in playoff contention at the end of the season. And they choked against Ohio State and then just laid a flat egg against Louisville. I mean, if they had defeated Louisville, I really think they probably would have run the table the rest of the way. I really did. So I think they probably would have beat Clemson in Death Valley. So Notre Dame losing to Louisville the way they did was really, really unfortunate for them. I think a pretty big disappointment for a team that I think had the pieces to contend for a national championship and make the college football playoff, and they're not. They're already out of contention entering week 7, which is a shame. LSU, another disappointment. Another team that had lofty goals, had playoff implications, or was a playoff team, and 2 losses before the end of September. So kind of crazy things happening there. So handful of disappointing teams there. Most impressed, Oklahoma's been really great. Oklahoma's been phenomenal. Win over Texas was great. They've won every game convincingly except for Texas, but that was against a quality team. No one expected Oklahoma, if they were going to win dominatingly, and they didn't. They won in the last few seconds, but they've been really impressive. Already matched last year's win total. Offense is about as good as you can get, about as balanced as you can get. Defense is finally coming together under Brent Venables. So I think Oklahoma has been really, really impressive, and they are in the thick of the playoff discussion, no doubt about it. Glassman says Colorado certainly has been impressive, winning four games now after only winning 1 last year. And Colorado probably going to go bowling. Colorado probably will go bowling. I'm pulling up their schedule right now as we look. They're 4-2. I fully expect them to beat Stanford this weekend to improve to 5-2. And then they just need one more win. The schedule gets tough after that. If they beat Stanford, the last truly winnable game for them, I think, is at home against Arizona later on in November. If they can win that, they'll go bowling. Even if they don't, and I want them to, I genuinely want them to, even if they don't, 5 wins in the first year for Deion Sanders after winning 1 game last year, although he wasn't there, is really, really impressive. He's put Colorado back on the map. The marketing has been unbelievable. They're going somewhere for now. So Colorado certainly, college football guy mentioned Louisville. They've been impressive, although we expected Louisville to be good. I think I had them as a 7-8 win team. Did I have them ranked in the top 15 at this point in the year? I did not. So Jeff Brom has done phenomenal things. So that's just a handful of teams. Like I said, the list could go on and on for disappointing teams and for impressive teams. It could stretch forever. There's like 133, 35 FBS teams, and we could let this go on forever. But that's just a handful. So good question there. And then finally, the Big Ten East, my take on there. I mean, I just told you, I think Michigan's going to win the national championship. That's my pick right now. So, of course, I still think they're the best team in the Big Ten East. The battle is really tight between Ohio State and Penn State for me. Penn State is really, really good. I've been really impressed with them. And that game, not this Saturday, but next Saturday in Columbus, is going to be a lot of fun. And very telling. Like Ohio State, if they lose that game, I think their playoff hopes are done because that means they'd have to run the table the rest of the way, and that includes that road game at Michigan. Penn State, their playoff hopes aren't entirely done if they lose to Ohio State because they get to host Michigan. And that's the beauty of the Big Ten East, man. It's the fact that we could have every single one of those three teams as a one-loss team. Ohio State beats Penn State, who beats Michigan, who beats Ohio State. They could all be 11-1 by season's end. You have to go through the crazy tie-breaking process to get whoever it is into the Big Ten championship game. And then if whoever wins that, and I imagine they would, the East representative probably will win the championship, does one of the other two teams, whether that's whoever it is, Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, does one of them get into the college football playoff? And then how do you justify leaving the other 11-1 team out? So that's a really, really tough situation to be in. And you want to talk about chaos? You get it if those Big Ten East teams all beat up on one another. If, again, in the most logical way that's going to happen is Ohio State beats Penn State in Columbus, Penn State beats Michigan in Happy Valley, Michigan beats Ohio State in Ann Arbor. Obviously, every team having that home field advantage, the home team's getting the wins. That's the most logical way of it happening. It could happen. So the Big Ten East is absolutely wild. That is chaos if I've ever seen it. Don't know what the heck the committee would do in that situation. But right now, Michigan, for me, is the number one team in the East, and they are my pick to win the Natty. So great question. Great lineup there, but and a lot of fun. And wow, touchdown Liberty. For those of you that may have forgotten that were watching this game over on the side, turn it over to ESPNU. Sign me up as a spokesperson. Really fun Conference USA matchup going on there. A game that has major conference implications and maybe, probably not, but maybe New Year's Six Bowl implications if Liberty can win it. Liberty has to win it. Liberty wins this game and then runs the table and goes undefeated. I don't think they'd get in over a team like Wyoming or Air Force or Tulane if those teams continued to win. Just because those other teams I just mentioned have better strength of schedule than Liberty, who is in a pitiful, weak Conference USA. But really fun game going on between a 5-0 Liberty team and a 5-1 Jacksonville State team. So good stuff happening over there. That covers all your questions, college football guy. I just realized that. So good stuff there. Trap game for Ohio State Purdue, not a trap game. Not a trap game. In recent years, maybe, but it's not this year. I know people are immediately going to point at that 2018 matchup and go, look, Purdue destroyed them. Purdue killed Ohio State. Yeah, they did. I know. But you know what? That was like 5 years ago. Lots changed since then. And while Purdue is solid and had actually, to me, it kind of exceeded expectations under Ryan Walters in his first year, they don't have enough to beat Ohio State. So Ohio State should win pretty comfortably, I think, on Saturday. And we'll wrap up. We'll wrap up doing the last thing that I promised we'd talk about. And I'm going to do John Paul here. Excuse me. Did I miss the coverage of the Pac-12? Kind of, not really. We've talked a little bit about it all. I'll lay it out like this, and then we'll call it a night. So, John Paul, giving you your Pac-12 talk before we wrap things up. Go over to the Pac-12. Pull it up here. It is without a doubt the best conference in all of college football right now, and you can't tell me otherwise. The SEC is not the best conference. The SEC West is down this year. Bama is definitely not at full strength that they have been. LSU already has 2 losses. Ole Miss isn't going to get there. A&M's not going to get there. Arkansas, Mississippi State are jokes. Auburn's a joke. West is down. The East actually might be a little bit better than the West this year. Georgia's great. Tennessee's good. Kentucky's solid. Missouri's solid. Watch out for those teams, right? But the Pac-12, man, USC, Oregon, Washington, those 3 teams are all in the top 10. Then you've got Oregon State, Utah, UCLA, Washington State that all only have 1 loss. The Pac-12 just continues to bully each other. And college football guy, thanks for being here, man. We appreciate you. Thank you for the phone call. And great question. So we'll hope to see you next week, man. Hope to see you next week. You look at the Pac-12, though, again, 3 teams in the top 10. The beauty and the craziness about this, I guess I should say, is the fact that they're just going to eat each other alive. Oregon or Washington is going to take their first loss of the season on Saturday. They got to play each other. Oregon and Washington still have to play USC, who has to play Notre Dame. I guess the point I'm trying to make, John, is this. I want to see a Pac-12 team get into the college football playoff this season. The last year of the conference's existence, I would love to see a team get in. And right now, I think anybody can beat anybody in this conference. Arizona State nearly beat Colorado. Arizona nearly beat USC. UCLA beat Washington State, who beat Oregon State, who beat Utah. Like, they're just all beating up on each other. And that's what I think is going to happen is, if your Pac-12 champion ends up having 2 losses, they're still a really dang good team. But 2 losses ain't going to get you into that Final Four. It's going to get you a Rose Bowl berth or whatever. It ain't going to get you in the Final Four. Someone's got to run the table either as an undefeated team or as a one-loss team. And I'm not sure who that's going to be, especially considering there's only 3 undefeated teams left in the conference. Again, USC, Oregon, and Washington. By the end of this weekend, there will only be 1, or at least there will only be possibly 2, because Oregon or Washington is going to lose. And if USC loses to Notre Dame, there's only going to be 1 remaining undefeated team in the Pac-12. And, God, that just muddies everything out. Because I'll paint you this hypothetical picture here. Let's say Washington beats Oregon. Oregon's got a loss. Let's say USC loses to Notre Dame. USC has got a loss. Well, let's click on Washington. Washington then later has to go on the road to USC. So undefeated Washington keeps running the table. They lose to USC. Now Washington's got a loss. So Washington's got a loss. USC's got a loss. Oregon's got a loss. Washington still has to play Utah, Oregon State, and Washington State, all ranked in the top 20 right now. 1 more loss for Washington, they're done. USC still would have to go on the road to Oregon, even though they would have beaten Washington. They lose that game, they're done. 2-loss Washington, 2-loss USC. Oregon already has their loss to Washington, and then Oregon has to go to Utah, where dreams go to die. So, I mean, it's just beat up. And eventually you could see two-loss teams battling it out for a conference championship, maybe both still in the top 15, but not in playoff contention. They're going to cannibalize each other. And that is the problem, and that's the fear if you're a Pac-12 fan or just hoping that the Pac-12 can do something special in their last year. It's going to be very, very, very difficult for them to do because the schedule is just so tough and the conference is just so deep this season. So it's kind of crazy to think about. Does a one-loss Pac-12 champion get in? Yes, I think they do because of how strong the conference is. If Washington beats Oregon, say they lose on the road to USC, but then win the remaining games, including the Pac-12 championship, Washington's in. Just like USC last year. USC would have been in had they defeated Utah in the Pac-12 championship. They lost to Utah in Salt Lake City earlier in the year, but had they beaten Utah again, they would have been in as that 4th seed. So, yes, 100%, a one-loss Pac-12 champion does get into the college football playoff. The question is, will the champion only have 1 loss? That is the tough thing to consider here. So, love the conference. Love how competitive it is. It's the deepest, most competitive Pac-12 we have seen in years, and it's a shame that this is the last year that we're going to have of it. I'm ecstatic to see how it plays out. I'm ecstatic for Oregon, Washington on Saturday. We're going to get a little bit more clarity within the conference by the end of Saturday after that game, after UCLA and Oregon State, and after USC and Notre Dame. We're going to have a lot of clarity in the Pac-12 by the end of Saturday night. But my fear is that they will just cannibalize each other, eat up on each other, and might miss out on the playoffs despite having a lot of talented teams. Great discussion, John. Great questions. Graham Brooks, good night, my guy. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you and all the support. Again, it goes a very, very long way, so we're pumped for having you, man. Thank you for being here. And then finally, last question here. Glassman, do I think Lincoln Riley would go to the NFL? No, I do not. I think he would be an idiot to go to the NFL. Lincoln Riley is the perfect example of a coach that can only work at the college level. And that's just my take. It is very rare that you see a college coach go from college to the pros and succeed. Matt Rule failed. Nick Saban failed. Steve Spurrier failed. Lou Holtz failed. Bobby Petrino failed. Bill O'Brien, mediocre, but had experience in the NFL before going to Penn State. Other way around, not so much. It's probably a handful of others. Urban Meyer, the best example. Pete Carroll, great example. He did okay, Done all right. Won a Super Bowl. Pretty big deal. Got to another one. But there aren't many. Pete Carroll, like you said, is probably the only one to do it. So Lincoln Riley has built his success off of what? He's built his success at the college level on utilizing the transfer portal and high-octane offenses with no defense. If you take that mentality to the NFL, you'll be run out before the season's over. So I'm not saying he won't go. Maybe his ego is big enough to maybe send him out there, but he would be stupid to do it because he will fail. Cliff Kingsbury, another example. A little bit of a decent run with the Cardinals. Didn't really pan out in the end, though. Kind of similar mentality to Lincoln Riley, right? Offensive mind, quarterback guru, not much of a defense. Did a pretty good job revamping that offense when Kyler Murray and everybody was healthy. They were good. They had that great, strong start a few years ago, and they had to get rid of him. Cliff Kingsbury, not going to pan out. Didn't pan out. So if he goes to the NFL, it will not work for them. Washington or Oregon, John Paul, tomorrow, my guy. Come back here tomorrow. Leave a comment so I know you watched it, so you know who we're picking. Washington, Oregon prediction video comes out tomorrow right here on the channel, 1:00 p.m. Central Time. Do not miss it. We'll have our official prediction there. Can't wait to hear what you think. And last thing, we'll end it with Stone Thomas, Air Force, Wyoming, 2 highest elevation football stadiums in America. Epic game. Winner jumps into the top 25. One of them should be ranked already. Wyoming's already ranked in our top 25. The winner should be ranked in the AP top 25 by next week. But that is a very, very underrated matchup with major Mountain West title implications. So if you're looking for an underrated game outside of the ranked versus ranked matchups and things like that, Wyoming and Air Force is going to be epic. And last thing here, Gideon, thank you so much, man. We'll wrap it up, call it a night with this comment here. Love to have you here weekly, man, all the way from Germany. That's phenomenal. That is so freaking awesome. So we definitely look forward to having you each Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. For us here, I don't know what time that is in Germany for you. I have no idea. But we're really pumped that you were here tonight and hope to have you back as many Tuesdays as we can have you, man. So thank you. Thank you very much. Predictions coming out starting tomorrow. Oregon, Washington, going to be great. No doubt about it. Have a great rest of your night or morning or whatever time it is in Germany. And as for everybody else, major shout-outs. Let's go through them real quick. Again, Gideon, thank you. Clement, we appreciate you. C. Glassman, John Paul Bacon, Frankie Russell, who is a big Virginia fan. Doggy, Sooner Thrawn, Max Todd, Jerry Turner, Mr. Bloodline, Stone Thomas Takes, R1, my man Mark. Again, Jerry Turner, if I didn't say it already. Graham Brooks, Robert, Flo, Will. My man Will Lou, the Rutgers fan. They're going to win on Saturday, mark my words. Mike Myrick, college football guy. Eugene Murphy, our man DM, who's not here, but he's always with us in spirit, no doubt about it. And everybody else who we may have missed, we appreciate you and all of your support. Ty Halpern for your super chat donation. We really, really appreciate you. You and Max both coming through clutch tonight. We really thank you. But again, both of you guys can't end the show because I can't help but answer college football. You're right. I struggle with that. I struggle ending conversations, Thomas. It's a problem. People get on to me for that a lot. Dennis Stokes, again, thank you. 2 a.m. for Gideon. Good Lord. I can't say anything. I'm up to like 3 or 3:30 each morning here, so I can't say much. Typically doing college football. Can't beat it. So Gideon, we're pumped to have you. Can't wait to see you next Tuesday. Yes, John Paul, 11 a.m. Pacific time for you. For our Oregon-Washington video. Comes out tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific time for you. Let us know what you think down in the comments. But for everybody else, we appreciate you all. Have a great rest of your night. We'll see you back here next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Time. You know the drill. Bring your questions, bring your comments, bring the discussion and the heat, just like you did tonight. But in the meantime, make sure to hit that like button on your way out. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to spread the word about our channel and get ready for another big-time college football Saturday. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you next week.